Hi, Bruna. I have Bruna, Vanessa, and Fernanda here today. Welcome to our practical class on STAR methodology. So we are here to talk about interviewing. We want to make sure that we're ready to interview with companies that require you to have fluency in English, and it's going to ask you to be prepared to answer complex questions. And the STAR methodology is very, very important to know because it's going to give you exactly the tools that you need to answer questions in a way that is very objective and very clear. So I want to share with you guys what I have learned and how you're able to master interviews by focusing on the STAR methodology. So welcome, everyone. I'm going to share my screen. I have some notes that I can share with you. When you go into an interview, you really need to know where to start and how to be objective. Why do we see a lot of people coming to job interviews that in the end of the day, it doesn't work out? When you're not objective, right? So I ask you a question and you start going like, when I don't know, it's very disruptive. So if you think of a person who is interviewing you and asking you something, if you are not clear and objective in your answer, that person, you lost them, right? So remember when you go out on a date with someone and you're trying to find out about them and they never answer the questions? I always say that is a red flag, right? So you ask them, oh, well, how long have you been single? Yeah, like 2 years, maybe one. I dated this person. So you get that feeling they're not saying the truth. That's a red flag. That's the same when you're in a job interview. If you're not answering exactly what was asked, they will get the feeling that you might be deviating from the question, you don't know the answer. So we want to make sure you're using everything to put things in a way that they can follow you. So they follow you along on when you answer them. And that's the STAR methodology. The STAR methodology is going to give you the tool to say, this is what happened, this is what I did, this was the result. There's no open ends, there's no room for questioning. If they have additional questions, you can refer back to what you already answered. So there's no much room there for you to have to come up with new answers for the same questions. So I'm gonna start with the descriptions so you can tell exactly how it's gonna look like. Then I'm gonna open with some examples that you can see in real life how we would use that, okay? So I have here some of our, STAR methodology just for you to see. The STAR acronym stands for situation, task, action, and result. When someone asks you a question during a job interview, or even when they ask you a question in the phone and the recruiter is calling you to say, just give me your background, just tell me about yourself, you can always find a way to fit into a STAR methodology. Situation. We start with the situation. So they're trying to find out what you did about something that happened to you, and you want to start being very specific about what was the situation, what was the problem, whatever happened in this situation, you just describe it. This first piece, it's very specific but very short. So when someone asks you a question in the interview that puts you in a situation where you feel the need to explain yourself too much, try not to. Okay, just state it. Just say that was the situation. Don't put any emotions to it. Say, yeah, I was tasked to do this. That was the situation. I had to finish my report by 2 p.m. Don't start with, oh, yeah, that was very difficult. I had to do this and that. Or, oh, it was fantastic because I had to do this. Just say exactly what the situation was and make it very simple. So the exact situation that you were assigned to do. Then is the task. The task, again, is short because you are explaining a little more of the situation. So the situation was X, and because of that situation, I had to take this task and do it. So I did have the situation where my manager was fired. That's the situation, nothing to add to it. As a result of that, what was the task? I had to step in to become the manager for a week. That was the task. So the situation was the manager was fired. The task was you be the manager for a week. You don't have to add much to it. Okay. What people want to do and where you need to be careful to guide them through is your action. That's where they're going to see how you behaved. So when we talk about the action, because your manager was fired, that was the situation. The task was for you to step in. How did you do it? What actions did you take? So my manager was fired, and it's okay to kind of repeat yourself, right? During the conversation. Yeah, I was in a situation where my manager was let go. I had to step in for a week. And because of that, I did action A, B, and C. And you can really go like that. First thing I did was I checked in with all my colleagues to make sure they're okay, that the morale of the team was under control. No expectation that people will feel happy about it, but I want to check in with everyone. First action I did. My second action was to create a report for everything that was left behind. That was my action. And you can go into detail a little more. You can say, in that report, I made sure to have all my former manager schedule. I made sure that everyone knew what was left behind so we can pick up everything that was left behind my manager. So you would describe with more detail that action. Okay. I like to see you guys' faces when I'm talking, so I'm gonna have you here. And when we talk about the end of the action, you bring them to a conclusion. Okay. And the conclusion, we try to use words that show that you're closing your answer. And as a result, of that, I was able to bring the team together, make sure the morale of the team stayed well, and we worked together to accomplish everything that was left behind by my manager. You see, it's always about there was a situation outside of your control sometimes. What was the task that you are assigned to do? That's very brief. You spend your time in the action. I did this, I did that. And as a result, I was able to bring the team together and things worked out well. I don't have to tell you that 99% of the times we try to put things in a positive light. So I use the my manager being let go as an example because we need to make sure we take the emotions away of our answers. A lot of times we can kind of swing towards, well, it was very difficult. My manager was fired. Everybody was scared. And that's easy for us to do when we're trying to talk with someone, right? And I've been in a situation like that when people ask me about why did you have to step in? Your manager was let go, and how do you answer that? Always answer objectively, clearly, taking the emotions out of the answer and just focus on the results. Is it clear? Okay. So now that I gave you guys this first example, can anyone share, or do you have any questions that you have been asked during an interview that you could see that put yourself in a position where you had to answer, showing results? Go ahead, Bruna.
I wrote down three questions that and and one that I still don't really know how to answer. I think was something like my friend got this question, and then I was thinking about it. It was share a moment that you prove trust worth trust. So, something like that.
Trustworthy.
Yeah, and then I was like, I and yeah, I only
Okay.
could think more in general situations, but not in a specific situation. So that was a little hard for me.
Okay. So tell me about a time that usually start like that you were able to show you trustworthy. So they're trying to ask you, could I trust you in a situation where things are. I'm going to share with you this very particular example that happened to me. And when you go through your career, if you had experienced things, it's easier to talk about, right? So you might be in the beginner phase of your career and you might not have experienced something as dramatic as I did, but you can come up with something that you can put in the same light. But I'm going to share with you, for example, I would talk about a sensitive moment in your career. So let's just say, well, there was conversations where it will be a layoff, big layoff. You're part of the leadership team and you were notified. I was notified. I had to sign an NDA. NDA is a no disclosure agreement. Okay. So you can use something that was sensitive. It shows that you are trustworthy when someone relies on you to keep a secret,
Mhm.
right? So I'll give an example of something like that. I would start with, well, as you know, a lot of layoffs have been happening lately. And lately, there was a situation where I was requested the task to sign an NDA, a non disclosure agreement. So I put out there situation, people are being let go. The task was sign an NDA. I put no emotion into it, right? Then the actions that I took. I take that very seriously. We are dealing with people's livelihood. People will be losing their jobs. So what I did was I took that as a very, trustworthy act from my company because they trusted me to do not disclose any information on the layoffs. I kept it very professionally. So I did not talk about with anyone close to me or in my personal life. And I did my best to keep the morale in the team and keep everyone confident that they could count on me if they were let go, even though I could not talk to them about it. So I was showing the trust that the company put on me and also being respectful of the people that work with me, right? And then I would close with, as a result, I was able to show management and leadership they could trust me with sensitive information. And I was able to act professionally and leave things the best way possible in a sensitive situation as this one. That's a very extreme situation, right?
Mhm.
I know that. But in your case, if you're not going through an NDA, but you're just going through anything that someone asked you not to talk about or to trust you with an assignment, you could say, I was 1 week within my job, and this director asked me to provide him with this report. He showed that he trusted my judgment and my professionalism. So I was able to provide him with the report within the time that he needed and all that, guiding you towards, he trusted me. You're trustworthy. That's what they're trying to say. Make sense?
Yes.
Good. So you said you had three questions. I'm excited to see what
More.
else you got stuck with.
Um, there was one, once I was doing a mock interview as well with my boyfriend, and he asked me like, "Oh, tell me a moment that you had, that you work in a group, we're doing team project, but the team wasn't agreeing, wasn't on the same page. How did you handle?" And I remember that I started to answer him, and then I noticed that when I gave the result, I actually, I was talking, and then I noticed actually the solution came from my
Mm-hmm.
friend. So I kind of like, I was like, oh, so my friend suggests, and I was like, and then because I think I should be the one who I should talk about the first person, right? So then it starts like, what I really do in a group to manage challenges. So I was like, and then I remember, I think once I answered this question and I talk about, I wasn't really that prepared. So I answer like, so I suggest it was my graduate program. I had assignment to do in group, etc., and we had it really, people from different backgrounds, so we couldn't arrive in a specific agreement. So I
Mm-hmm.
suggested to speak with the professor, because in that time we did have time and he has his officer hours. And then I told that, and then later on I was thinking, was that a good answer? Because like I felt like we couldn't handle, and then I
Mm-hmm.
had to
Mm-hmm.
go. So I don't know if it's a good answer or not.
It's a great point. Does anybody want to provide any feedback on that? Vanessa, you're on
You're on
mute. I
my
cannot
mute.
hear you. Can you guys hear Vanessa?
No, I think he's on.
No, we cannot hear you. You don't seem to be on mute, but your audio is not coming out. No, it's not coming out for us. But I can start and you can try to get your audio. I was going to say, good catch that you realize sometimes putting the answer where you involve other people into the solution is not a good idea, right? Um, I would be okay with saying that your friend had a good idea and sharing that because it means that you listen. So when somebody else comes with the solution, and you say, you know what, my friend had a good insight and I really like that. So I took that into consideration. That shows that you work well with the team. So you can take people's feedback because a lot of people don't care. They only want to do their way and take everything for themselves. And in a company, when you're working projects, you really need to understand it's okay to have other people come in and collaborate, and you take whatever they did or whatever solution was provided. And as long as you understand that that is listening, that is working as a team, that's really good. So that's totally fine. If you say, well, you know what, my friend was able to come up with this idea and I agreed with her, I thought it was a good way to do it. We worked together to implement the solution. So you just put yourself in an active role. I would stay away from we went to the teacher because what happens is we went to the manager. The manager doesn't want to have someone who's going to come to them for solutions all the time. In fact, they always say, don't come to me it's for problems, come with solutions. I hear that all the time, right? So I would stay away from that. And I would focus on we work within the group. Whoever came up with a solution is fine, even if it wasn't you, but you were the one who took that into consideration and drove that into implementation. Okay? Vanessa's back. Do you think we can hear you? No. Still, you might want to find your headphones or something like that, or you switch where you have your audio coming out of. That might help. So, Fernanda, maybe you can share one question that you felt like was a hard one during your interview process that you have been doing lately. You
Sure.
can share with us and we can see we can answer the better way.
Yeah. There was like this recent mock interviewing and that I had, and the question that they come up with was, tell us about a situation of resilience and how you overcome it. So
Very good.
yeah,
How did
for
you
me,
answer that?
it was a little bit difficult for me because I wasn't prepared for that.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to think about it at the moment. And what I said was basically, since I work with data protection, and it's a new topic like in the world, here in Brazil or Europe, US,
Mm-hmm.
I said that besides the fact that we have um, to deal with this new content,
Mm-hmm.
we'll have to look up for every kind of recommendations of the world, and maybe it's a little bit um, difficult, but when it comes to challenge, I think it's a good way for us to improve our acknowledgement. It was
Mm.
basically that.
Okay. I like that the way you position, because it is kind of it's resilience is for you to insist into something that you don't know the result, right? So you are being resilient, you're doing it no matter what. So what your example does have a side of, I'm investing on this, I'm working on this, even though we don't have that much data, we don't have that much information, and I'm working on it, right? I would suggest, of course, it's better when we put in a star methodology, right? So I would try to break it down as much as you can into examples. So they ask you for a specific example. You could have a project, even if it's a school project, to say, yes, there was a school project where I had to find specific data on this, and the task was to come up with data solutions in Europe. I wasn't able to come up with specific data because of this, this, and this. But what I did was I went after X, Y, and Z. So it shows that you are still persisting, right? And you
Mhm.
still, even if you don't have what was asked of you, you're going above and beyond to
Mhm.
find the information. I would, in my experience, when someone talk about resilience, I take to the personal side. And that's something I want to share with you guys. It's okay to talk about your personal life as long as you keep it professional, right? So we are mixing both, but it has a professional focus to it. So when we talk about how did you gain resilience, you can talk about a challenging time in your life that you can spin in a way that shows resilience and how that resulted in you becoming a better professional, a better student, that you learned something. So, for example, I use my English. I say, well, let me tell you, when I moved to the United States or when I started my MBA program, my English was very basic. I realized, so that's the situation, right? I realized in order to achieve my goal to work for a company like yours, I would need a English at a level of fluency. So that's the task. And what I have been doing, I have been working on my English by doing ABC. And I can tell that by not giving up, so that's being resilient, and doing everything I can to have the English at the level that is needed for this job, I'm able to come here today and talk to you with more confidence. So that's the result. Good. That's awesome. So I see we coming out of the questions that you guys brought in. I think we should keep with this, practice, because it takes a lot of practice and it puts us in a different mindset when we're able to just answer questions that are complex in nature or just unexpected. Like, I wasn't expecting. That's the most common thing that we say is like, I wasn't expecting this question. So I want to continue our conversation with how to answer with the STAR method. I think we have a lot of things we can work with. And I want to invite you guys for our next conversation, the next class, to have even more complex questions for us to answer and more examples. Okay? Thank you
Yes.
very much.